Okay. Now let's identify the various muscles that are in the flexor compartment. So what are the muscles in the flexor compartment that we know of? The very easy idea is to go from this muscle, that is my pronator teres, followed by this particular muscle. This is the radialis, that is the flexor carpi radialis, followed by this muscle. This is the flexor digitorum superficialis. After the flexor digitorum superficialis, we will have a very long tendon. This is the palmaris longus, which has actually torn. Okay, so this is the palmaris longus, and lying medial most is the FCU. So this is the FCU. Okay, this particular muscle is the FCU muscle, that is the flexor carpi ulnaris. Pronator teres, FCR, palmaris longus, and then we have got the FCU, and in between, in the deeper plane, we have got the flexor digitorum superficialis. So teres, carpi radialis, superficialis, that is digitorum superficialis. This one is our palmaris longus, and then we have got the FCU. Okay, so those are the superficial 5 flexors. We already know what the nerve supply is and whatever. Now we will just try to come here once towards this part. Now, as you can see, we had the median nerve which was here, which has entered through the pronator teres. It is supplying all these muscles here, and then it is, as you know, it will pass along with these muscles into what we call as the flexor retinaculum. So here is our palmaris longus, and here is our median nerve. Okay, here is our median nerve. You can actually see the median nerve entering to supply this one. Okay, so please remember, if I have to find out the median nerve in the forearm, it actually lies in a bit deeper plane, because it is going to provide so many nerve supply to all these muscles here, except the FCU and medial half of the FDP. All are supplied by the median nerve here. So you are going to find it in a bit deeper plane. It will enter, and generally what it does is it leaves this part and enters lying lateral to that of my palmaris longus tendon. This is the palmaris longus. So basically in this region, 2 things lie side by side, and here we are just unable to find it out. It would have required a bit of more age. You can see the nerve here. So if we just detach the nerve here, you will see just that it is coming out separately, right? Though it is in very close approximation, it is providing those branches. See, it is basically coming out like this. Okay, so please remember this. Out here we are going to find 2 longitudinal structure. One of them is going to be our median nerve. So okay, so that is going to be the median nerve. Now if we move a bit to the deeper plane, what do we find? We will just lift this. Once this is our median nerve, you are holding it. Once we have lifted this, see, we are getting this particular muscle here with its one single tendon. Okay, this is the flexor pollicis longus muscle. This one is the flexor pollicis longus. Beside it, what you are seeing are the fibers of the FDP, that is the flexor digitorum profundus. Okay, so the 4 tendons of the F1, 2, 3, and here lies your 4th one. Okay, so this is the tendons of the FDP, the 4 tendons. And if we go deep to this, we find this particular quadrilateral muscle, right? You can see this quadrilateral muscle deeper. So this particular quadrilateral muscle in the deeper plane is nothing but the pronator quadratus. Okay, now we have talked about a particular plane or a space that is called as the space of Parona. So just let me show you how the space of Parona will be formed. See here you can actually understand that my finger has gone very deep into the palm, right? You can actually see my thumb here. You can actually see the thumb, impression of the thumb, right? See, all these longitudinal muscles, all the longitudinal tendons are forming one plane, and underneath these longitudinal muscles, which are starting from the forearm and going into the palm, then underneath we have a muscle which is placed in a different orientation. So if these muscles are placed like this, then my pronator quadratus is placed in this manner. So there is a plane between these longitudinal muscles and this transverse muscle. Okay, so this particular transverse muscle that is below is the pronator quadratus. Above it we have the longitudinal muscles. So the gap that is between these two is the space of Parona in the forearm. So here is the space of Parona. So I am basically entering from the forearm into the palm. You can actually understand that my finger has gone very deep inside it, right? It has gone so deep that it is basically lying underneath these tendons that are going to the fingers. You already know, sir, we are in the region of the palm. So these are my FDS and the FDP tendons. So below this FDS and the FDP tendon, in the region of the palm, we have what is called as the palmar spaces. So we say this thing repeatedly, that the palmar spaces are in continuation with the space of Parona. Note, palmar space superficially formed by these tendons, that is the tendons of the FDP, FDS along with the lumbricals originating from the FDP. Underneath it lies the mid palmar and the thenar space, and they are in continuation with the space of Parona. So here deeply, so my finger is right now held by one structure that is called as the flexor retinaculum. Okay, that is underneath the flexor retinaculum. So here lies the space of Parona between the longitudinal and the transverse fibers, and then we come to the region of the palm. And as you know, in the region of the palm, pretty easy to identify. So these are the tendons of the FDS, whatever is lying superficial. If you just lift this, you will be finding the fibers for the FDP, and with the FDP fibers there are very small muscle fibers that are brown in color that are going with it. Okay, so these are the lumbrical muscles. Okay, these are the lumbricals. So here remember, the identifying features are: superficial muscle is the flexor digitorum superficialis, deep to it lies the FDP, and with the FDP, along with the FDP in the same plane, there are certain muscle fibers. Those particular muscle fibers are my lumbricals. Okay, and this particular structure that you are getting, so these are nothing but the branches of the median nerve that are responsible for providing digital branches. So you know 3.5, so 1 2 3 half from here. So these are the digital branches that are coming from the median nerve to provide cutaneous supply to the region of the palm. This is the FDS. Median nerve is much thin, whereas FDS tendon is much thick. Easiest way to identify and differentiate between the two. Underneath the FDS we have the FDP. So here is the FDS, so underneath is the FDP, you can see, and then from it there is this brown structure that is the lumbricals. So that brings us to the end of the portion of the upper limb.